for example, when you're going to bed at night, just cast your eye over the day and think about what you're grateful for. And of course, that's lovely. Like, yes, we should all live like that, but not if it's, and sorry for the graphic language, but if it's like, you know, putting glitter on a ship.
Yes.
Like, you have to face what's currently there. Otherwise, it's just another mask. It's just a different variety of pretending.
It's Retreat and Grow Rich, the podcast. I'm Darla LeDoux, best-selling author, coach, and retreat leader, and I'm on a mission to normalize transformation on the planet, one intimate retreat at a time. This show's dedicated to the coaches, consultants, healers, leaders, and light workers who are here to hold space for the truth that transforms lives and get paid for it. Expert retreat and business tips, strategies, stories, and magic. It's your weekly mini retreat delivered right to your ears. Let's do this. Hello and welcome to today's episode of Retreat and Grow Rich, the podcast. I'm so excited to be here with the fabulous Kate Wolf, all the way from the UK. Hi, Kate.
Hi, Darla. So happy to be here with you.
Thank you so much for being here. I want to tell people a little bit about you and then we're going to dive in. So Kate Wolf is the founder of Wild Voices and the Beacon Sisterhood. And she's on a mission to unleash the voices of 1 million change makers. Kate works with playful pioneers and inspiring philanthropists, women with entrepreneurial spirit who want to combine their work in the world with giving to causes they love. She brings years of experience as an intuitive energy healer, Reiki master, yoga and meditation instructor, creativity expert, and she clears blocks to healthy self-expression and supports clients to really speak their truth. And she does retreats to do this, which I'm excited to ask her about. With a vast understanding of effective communication from work in theater to creative education, directing, writing, performing, and teaching, Kate transforms bland brands into businesses that beam with personality and stories that connect, from both the page to the stage. She's been called fun, playful, wise beyond her years. I can attest to that. Honest, boundaried, fiercely loving, and dangerously insightful, which means those who want their life to stay exactly the same need not apply. I never want my life to stay exactly the same. So I love that. If you know your work is about more than just making money, if it's about starting a movement, lighting the way for a new world, taking a stand, and you want to make more money so you can give back, Kate will support you and your magic so you can free your voice and shine your quirky light. So Kate, first of all, just tell us a little bit about how you came to be the voice behind Wild Voices. Why is that so important to you?
Ooh, that's such a good question. It's important to me because I've experienced the opposite. So I've experienced the sitting around the family dinner table and literally crying because I couldn't express myself. And I knew I didn't agree with what was being said, but I couldn't form the words to form my own argument from a grounded place that could be listened to. And it was very painful. And I've always also experienced the other side of that, the joy of full self-expression, the new level of depth and intimacy that is possible, that is now possible for me as I express my true self in the world. And so I want that for others, and that's why I do the work I do. Yes.
So tell us about the joy of full self-expression. Like, you're speaking my language right now. And like, what does that mean to you? And how do you see that show up for business women?
Ooh, okay. So for business women specifically.
Yeah. Or humans, however you want to go with it.
Humans. the joy of full self-expression is for me and for my clients. So who knows if it's for everyone, but so far this has been my experience, is it's a visceral experience and it gives you energy. So every time you say the thing you're scared of, you bring your full self to someone else. Especially I see this in relationship, the amount of holding back for fear of losing the other, and then the moment of, oh, I'm just gonna say what I'm thinking, or I'm just gonna tell you how I'm feeling, and actually what happens in that moment is more depth and more intimacy, if it's someone you want to continue being with, right? And the same happens in business. Business is ultimately about relationships. So I see every single time a client of mine goes from sharing her wild voice with just me or at a retreat to sharing it with the wider world, with her community, with her potential clients, literally I get messages the next day going, oh my God, I've had 2 new clients sign up, or I've had 3 messages of thanks for my Facebook Live, or someone cried on my sales call, and they're all about connection, and they're all about people feeling really connected to the person who's daring to speak their truth.
Yeah. So this begs the question of, what is a wild voice and how do we find it? Like, how do you define that? Because you said, when someone dares to speak their wild voice, it's like these miracles happen. What is it exactly?
So for me, it's there are 2 elements that make it up, and one is the going inward, and it's that wise, wild voice of your intuition. So it's the voice that never shouts and is always kind, and sometimes doesn't have words. So sometimes it's just a feeling or a sense, like a or or that way, this way, say this, do that. And it's generally but it's always clear, and it never explains itself. So and it's great to know that, because anytime I notice I'm doing it, which I still do, of course, because I'm human, or a client does it, which is go up into explaining, rationalizing, oh, I'm like this because, or I want to do this but I can't because, and there's a reason. It's not the wild voice, because the wild voice does not explain. It doesn't need to. It just is.
That's a great way to think about it.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's really helpful because we're really good at telling ourselves stories, right? And convincing ourselves. So anytime I notice that me or a client is doing that, okay, like this conversation is kind of now pointless, because it's just trying to prove the current story and the current level of understanding. So let's go under that. Let's go, what does your body want to say about that? And
tell
so
me a little bit about, you said this conversation's pointless. Like, that's a big statement. So, what, and we're going to get into talking about retreats and how we guide these conversations. But how do you handle that as a coach, as a friend, as a partner, when you notice someone going into explaining, or it's not their wild voice, and you're going, okay, this conversation is pointless. How do you approach that?
Well, I'll speak to it specifically as a coach, because with a friend, I think it is different. If I don't have their permission to dive deep into their inner world, then I'm not going to go there. They can keep their stories, and we'll just go for a drink and have fun. That's fine. That's their choice. But when I'm coaching and someone knows what I'm about and they have chosen me, then I absolutely will stand for their truth. And on my latest retreat, Wild Voices, afterwards I had a follow-up call with my amazing support woman, and she said to me, wow, you really do not have any space for bullshit, do you? And I was like, oh, what do you mean? What do you see? what did you see, and how I was leading? And she said, whenever anyone was speaking from that place that we're talking about, you just guided them out of it and into a deeper, truer place.
Yeah.
And for me, that is the only place from where we can then change. It's the only place from where we can create transformation, is the truth.
Yeah. Wow. So, Kate, what's been a time when you yourself have noticed being in the stories or kind of being in a scenario where your truth wasn't there and you've had to shift or find your wild voice in a scenario?
Yeah, so many, so many. And I'm going to go with the one that happened with you because you're right here. So I'll share
Yay.
on your retreat, on Retreat and Grow Rich Live in San Diego. And there was a moment where you were teaching around the 7 levels of energy. And I won't go into explaining it, but just so there's enough background for amazing listeners to get it. You were saying how, you know, level 1 is this kind of victim energy, and then level 2 is anger, and then as you go up, you get to this level 6 energy, which is where everyone is always winning.
Yes.
And I was sitting there and I was having this internal dialogue with myself. So I was up in my head, and part of me was going, yeah, I completely agree. I know that on some level we are all always winning, and from a really big picture view, everything is unfolding perfectly and we're all getting exactly what we need. And then there was another voice going, you know, what? Like, how are the Syrian refugees winning? How are the dying whales in the ocean, because we can't control our use of plastic, winning? And I was feeling very level 2 energy, anger. Yeah. And I'm in this room full of amazing women who I've just met, and you who I love and admire. And I'm like, oh no, if I speak my truth right now, I'm like bringing a challenge, you know, which is scary, rocking the boat. And what if I get judged as low vibrational energy?
Yes.
And so there was a real inner challenge of, do I bring this? And luckily, and this is what I love about really well held retreats, is I knew it was a safe space, and I knew I could bring all of that. And then, you know, like I was saying before, that truth is the only place from where we can transform. In me bringing that truth, and what you saw in that truth was my philanthropist, was a woman who deeply cares and wants to create change in the world. And that has opened up, you know, a whole new level of vision, and therefore inspiration and passion and get up and go and self-belief, and more asking of support, because I can't do that mission by myself. So it's opened huge doors that wouldn't have opened if I'd kept quiet.
That's amazing. I love that. And you said, you know, if I speak my truth, I might rock the boat. And, you know, and I think this is an interesting thing. And by the way, for listeners, I teach about the 7 levels of energy in episode 4 of this podcast. So if you want to learn more about that, you can listen to episode 4. But you know, as leaders, we can feel like it's not like we should be past this. We shouldn't have these low vibration thoughts. We shouldn't, you know, get triggered. We should be somehow different. And if we, yes, we want to keep a high vibration. We want to focus on thoughts that serve us and build us and grow us. And if we are authentically feeling something at a different level, that needs to be spoken.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way we can grow, right? It's not like, and so a lot of times we get stuck because we think it's not okay to have lower energy thoughts, but we're human.
Yeah, absolutely.
And unless they have a voice, they're there eating away at us at some level, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's so important. It's why I've always sort of not fully trusted the idea of things like affirmations and positive thinking. And at its core, the positive thinking movement is beautiful. I remember listening to Joan Borysenko, and she was saying how, for example, when you're going to bed at night, just cast your eye over the day and think about what you're grateful for. And of course, that's lovely. Like, yes, we should all live like that, but not if it's, and sorry for the graphic language, but if it's like, putting glitter on a ship.
Yes.
Like, you have to face what's currently there. Otherwise, it's just another mask. It's just a
Yes.
different variety of pretending. And so, yeah, I've just experienced it too many times there. And it goes back to the joy of self-expression again. I really think that is the key, because while I'm using the word joy, I might be crying or I might be really angry. But when I fully let myself, and I see this with clients too, experience what's there, it's joyful. At the very core of sadness is joy.
Yes. Well, when we're really seen, we can experience joy, right? And when we're really present, joy is in the present moment. So what I'm hearing you saying is people expressing what's really present for them and allowing it to be seen.
Yeah.
I use intimacy, like into me see, right? And intimacy is what we crave. It does
Yeah.
bring joy, and we can't have it if we're pretending we got it all together, or we're not saying what's true.
Absolutely. And it absolutely is what people crave. And I think as retreat leaders and as entrepreneurs, knowing that and trusting that and going out into the world, knowing that it is your authenticity that is what people crave. Like, how amazing is that to know that in your marketing?
Yes. Yes. So talk a little bit about how you see people's marketing transform when they're really willing to get wild.
Mm. I see it become a lot more fun. I see them break free of the rules and the old way of doing things, and the formulas and um, the 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 toning down of their message. So they come to me, and whether it's at a retreat or in one-to-one work, I'm listening to them and I'm thinking, oh my God, I want to work with you and I don't even need what you do. You're fascinating. And then I look at their marketing and I'm like, what's going on? There's a complete mismatch. And very often they've worked with quite a traditional business coach. So they've gone into, my clients have always gone into business in the first place, into being self-employed, because they're different, because they did not like being in the corporate world or any other world where they were expected to fit in and follow the rules and toe the line. But to move straight to self-employment and do things completely your own way is a big leap. So generally they'll have found a very kind of straight business coach who'll have taught them the rules to follow. And that's not only toned down their message, but it's also, for some of them, they forgot why they went self-employed in the first place. And they lose that spark, that quirky spark that is what comes back when they find their wild voice. Because the thing is, if you came here to be a healer, you can't fit in. They're literally mutually exclusive, and not many things in this world are mutually exclusive, but that is, if you came here to be a healer of any kind, not necessarily like an energy healer, but a coach or a nurse, you can't fit in. So the work is around letting go of the fear of not fitting in, and of having other people judge you for not fitting in, so you can do what you came here to do.
Yeah. So as someone who, you talked about being an old soul or born wise, right? As someone who came in with a lot of wisdom, I know, that's one of the things that you've experienced is being wise very young and kind of trying to sort that out and be able to own it in the world where people maybe think you need more gray hair or whatever. And what's that been like for you, feeling really different? And what's been your journey of fitting in versus standing out or owning your quirkiness?
It's been a long journey, and I'd say I'm still on it. I think it is ever evolving along with me. I'm seeing more and more in my work, especially having just led this retreat, that the places where I was fully surrendered and allowing and trusting, and then the places where just like little remnants of old ways of being come up. So I'm definitely still learning and growing. But a big part of that journey for me was being a very bright, tuned in, able to sense energies and kind of the undercurrents of what was going on, girl in a school where that wasn't, there was no space for that. And and the other girls being very mean. And I remember literally walking across the playground and having the thought at 7 years old, if I don't show them that I'm hurting, it isn't real. So, at 7 years old going, okay, and hiding my real emotions.
So if you don't show them that they've had an effect on you, so putting up your guard.
Yeah, absolutely. And I spent about 2 years in this one particular spot in the playground that I was sort of so angled that no one could see my face and that I was crying. And so, of course, the idea years later, after building a life based on, as long as no one else knows how I feel inside, I'm safe. I was sitting in a women's circle on retreat again, the magical power of retreats, and this particular woman leader, she saw underneath this smile that I'd learned to put on, and she just asked me. She said, "What's underneath your smile? I don't believe it." And in that moment, it felt like she pulled out the rug of Kate, like the rug of my built up existence of who I thought I was. And I was thinking, if I'm not the person who's always okay and who other people come to for help, who am I?
Yes.
And it was terrifying. The feeling was utter terror.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what did that allow for? Being able to go to that place. And it is terror, and we keep growing. I mean, I keep growing, you keep growing. It's like we get more comfortable with the terror because we've got practice, right? We know we're going to live through it. We know that there's greater freedom on the other side. But when you're in that moment of terror, like, what's that like? And how do you build from there?
So this is why I love retreats, because it was a safe space. I could go into the terror and feel the emotion, and she led it in such a way where I was able to find my anger as well, and my tears. And then she sent me out into the forest. So we'd been dancing, so I was wearing just a little light dress, and I went outside and it was raining and it was in England, so it was not warm. And I ran through the forest, and I found this stick, and I picked it up, and I was like hitting the trees and just screaming and crying and releasing. And eventually I found this little dell, and it was early spring, so there were the sort of the unfurling ferns when they're still really tight.
Okay.
And I just sort of lay and I stared at them, and then I asked, because I knew I had to leave London at that point, and I knew that London was not supporting me to be me, and that was a big part in the puzzle of self-expression. And I just said, like, where should I go? And this wise wild voice said Dartmoor, and phone Denise. And
thank you for being so specific.
it was very specific. And hilariously, the next evening, because sometimes we need to be told by humans as well, right? Like other humans. I shared that I'd been told in the forest to move to Dartmoor, and another woman in the circle said, "Oh, I've got a friend who lives in Dartmoor. I'll give you her number. She's called Denise."
Oh, wow. You didn't even know Denise.
No, I did know her. I'd stayed in her.
Okay.
I stayed with her in a cottage when she'd been letting out on Airbnb, and but then to have that said, sort of, via my intuition and the energy of the forest as well, and then to have it said by a human, like, okay, I'm not ignoring this one.
Yeah.
And I phoned Denise the next day, and she said, well, that's interesting, because on that day when you were in the forest, I decided to stop letting them out on Airbnb and look for someone to move in.
Isn't that amazing?
So I moved in.
That's amazing. And that comes from, like, how do you explain that? How does that relate to, like, I have my version of it, right? In terms of the energy shift that happened, but how do you explain that? That this miracle opened up.
Say that again?
That the miracle opened up, like, immediately.
Yeah. So for me, it would be about truth, real, my personal truth. I'm not going to tell anyone this is truth with a capital T, like, we don't need any more fundamentalism in the world. So, but my inner experience, being truthful with that, and it being, like you were saying, it being seen. So me being in my most raw, my most vulnerable, the release of this mask that I'd been wearing for years, that had come from a wise part of me that was keeping me safe as a small girl. So to be seen in that and loved, and to feel that, like, whoa, that is going to create space. It's going to create, because I can then let that layer, shed that layer.
Yes.
And then there's space for new.
Yeah. I know you've likely heard my favorite quote that says, as human beings, we can't accept a part of ourselves we haven't shared with another human being and had validated rather than violated. And that's what I hear in that, is that, even the part of you that was angry was validated. The part of you that was hurt was validated, and it made space for these new realizations.
Yeah.
And for you to really hear your intuition that was speaking to you.
Yeah.
And, so many times people are asking, well, how do I hear my intuition? And that you have to really be willing to hear everything.
Absolutely.
Right? You can't
That's
just
the
say,
secret.
hey, give me some fun miracles.
Give me the good stuff.
I want to ignore this other part. Right?
Yeah.
So Kate, I want to ask, I'm going to ask like a really broad question about retreats, and you can take it in whatever direction feels right for you.
Okay.
Because then I know you have an experience to share with our listeners as well. So you host retreats. You've hosted several now. You've shared several stories of your own transformation that's happened during retreats. a lot of our listeners either are retreat hosts or really would love to see themselves. Like my experience was, I just kept seeing myself in front of a small group going on an intimate journey that really made a difference. And that was my calling. And I didn't see how to do that. I didn't have a roadmap. And that's my goal, is to really give people more of a roadmap, because I thought I was crazy and the people in my life thought I was crazy. And so what would you want to share with listeners about what you've learned on your journey that might support them if they want to lead retreats? And I know we could ask 100 questions about that. So maybe pick one or two lessons that really are, feel most important.
Yeah. Wow. Yes, I could talk about that for about a year nonstop. And I'm just going to have a quick sip of water.
Cheers.
And it's funny because just as you were asking that question and speaking, I glanced down and I made some notes of things that I wanted to be sure that I shared with your listeners. I'd literally written down, I see it too, you're not crazy. and that is, I think, that the key for me has been community. And the thing is, when you're at that place where it is just a vision, and you're feeling the calling in whatever way that comes for you, it might be that you're just having an idea, or it might be, like you shared, that you're seeing yourself at the front of the room, which is how it was for me also. At that point, it is just in your imagination, and therefore hard to fully believe and fully trust. And easy to dismiss, especially if you share it with people who aren't visionaries, for example, or who don't have strength or trust in themselves.
Yes.
And so what they're going to see and feel is the dangers that come with that, and the risk and the not knowingness. And so what's really, really helped me is to surround myself with fellow entrepreneurial travelers who get that you have to step into the unknown, and that if you have a vision, you have it for a reason, and who will remind me of that when I forget. And that's my litmus test for my support people is, do you still believe in me when I forget, or do you buy into my fears?
That's awesome. I love that. I love that tip for support people also.
Yeah.
So why is retreat such a great way to build community? What's been your experience with that? What's the magic of the community that forms?
Well, I think the magic is in a lot of what we've spoken about, which is it being a safe space for truth to reveal itself. If it's set up in that way, if the leader is conscious of that. You can go to a retreat where it's just all about them teaching you what they know, and that's very different. But if you go to one, and if you create one for yourself, where the reason that you're doing it is that you're wanting to be part of creating a new world, and a world where we have deeper intimacy and more truth, then you literally get to just do that. I opened my most recent retreat by walking in and writing on the board, old way, new way. And throughout the retreat, we kept going back to it, and we formed agreements about how we wanted to be while at the retreat, based on the world that we want to experience, and giving ourselves an opportunity to experience that now.
That's beautiful. I love that idea. So that's one way you can set up. You said, there's a difference, and I'm really passionate about this, Kate, that, like a typical yoga retreat is going to be awesome. Just getting away, right? And going to a retreat and moving your body and maybe being in nature and with people. And then a business retreat where a typical business retreat where you're learning techniques or formulas or approaches or whatever will also be awesome because you'll be out of your environment and with a group of people.
Yeah.
And then there's a truth retreat, where it's really set up in that way. So one way I heard you say to set it up that way is having agreements about what you want to experience at the retreat. What are two other ways that people can set up the retreat really to be in truth?
Ooh. So I would start, at the beginning, before you're at the retreat. What I know that you're a big fan of intentions, and I am too, and I think it's only very recently that I actually have experienced the power of intention to create in the world. So absolutely starting with why you're wanting to lead a retreat. So, okay, amazing. You're having a vision of you at the front of the room. Why is that important for you?
Yeah.
What would that make possible for you, for your clients, for the world? So getting really intentional. And then also, again, before the retreat, on your sales calls, if you're speaking with someone and something about it doesn't feel right, like it doesn't feel like it's a complete yes for you, I wouldn't invite them. And the opposite, if it feels like, oh wow, this person needs to be in the room and I don't know why, but they do, be a stand for them. So again, it's about listening in to that quiet, wise, wild voice. And I use the word wild because it's never been tamed. There's a part of us that has not been tamed or conditioned. And we all know very well the parts of us that have, but there is a part that never was tamed or conditioned. So it's listening into that wild voice while the shaping of your retreat is happening.
Yes, I love it. I love that. That's amazing. So the power of intention, and then really being clear about who's in the room.
Yeah.
So they're coming in alignment with that intention.
Yeah.
And I love that you said either don't invite them, which is hard to do, right? When you want to fill your retreat and you want to make money and all of those things, or be a stand for them. And, some of my best stories of clients, which I won't go into now, but it's like, it wasn't a simple conversation. It was actually in the conversation to come to the retreat was a transformation.
Yeah.
Because the ego knows I won't be the same when I leave here. Yeah. And so it's a big choice, and so many people feel like it should be easier to fill the retreat, but really you want it to be the right people. And it's a big choice. So when you stand for them to come to the retreat, now it's like amazing, right? Because they're clear and they're bought in. Their egos already said, yes, I'm getting out of the way. I'm letting you go. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. They're ready. They're ready, and they've chosen you as their guide for that particular piece of the journey. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Okay. So one of the things about the Retreat and Grow Rich podcast is we love experiences. Obviously, I recommend everybody get in a room and have a live experience in a retreat, but we want to give a mini experience to people here. So if you were to give a mini experience for people to kind of just learn how their wild voice talks to them, or to be able to get a little more wild in life, how might we do that, Kate?
Ooh, had to get a little more wild in life. Well, it has to include the body. It has to. Dropping down into the body. You can hear it in someone's voice. I'll give you a little example. Like if I'm really up in my head, I actually speak higher and faster. And I'm like, blah, 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 and people go round and round in stories. And I find it very exhausting to listen to even pretend to do that. So I'm going to stop right now. And as I take deeper breaths, and literally it's my awareness, and my awareness drops down into my belly, my voice becomes lower, it becomes more resonant, it's much more pleasant to listen to. And if you, the listener listening, are present in your body, then you'll feel that resonance as well. And so many of us are rushing around up in our heads, and to know that to come out of your head, all you need to do is take a few deep belly breaths and let yourself have a voiced exhale, so like a gentle sigh as you're exhaling. Yeah, great. And just feel any energy that is like static, just draining from your head out through your body, through your legs and your feet, and down into the earth. So let's all take another deep breath in together. And voiced exhale. And feel the energy just draining out and down into the earth. Just notice your state and how quickly it's possible to change a state. And just keep breathing here, deep down into your belly, letting your belly expand as you inhale and soften as you exhale. And we're going to take into this place the releasing into the earth, into Mother Earth, who knows what to do with our fears. She knows how to compost and allow new things to grow from them. So I want you to bring to mind any current fear that you have. Maybe it's about taking your business to the next level. Maybe it's about making a sales call to a woman that you know would just be a perfect fit for your next retreat. Or maybe it's about going visible online, doing a Facebook Live, sharing your voice with the world. So just feel into what's your current next scary thing that has been nudging you and maybe you've been ignoring for a little too long. Let's bring that into your awareness. And then allow that to stay with you gently. You don't need to hold on to it anymore. And take your awareness now inside your body, deep into the very center of you, your creative center. So into your womb space or your energetic womb space, from where we create life, we create projects, we create businesses, and we create new versions of ourselves. Really bringing your awareness inside. Imagine that you can trace the inside of your pelvic bowl. So drawing a finger or a hand around the inside of your pelvis. Inside into that nest-like space. And from there, I want you to allow your fear to have a shape. So it might be an animal, it might be some really bizarre shape. It doesn't need to make sense, you don't need to understand. Trust what comes. And I want you to turn towards the shape of your fear. Dare to face it, to look it in the eyes. With curiosity and love for this part of you. You might want to walk around it, get to know it. See what you see and hear what you hear. Maybe it has a message for you. Let your fear have a voice. And allow whatever happens to happen. Maybe it shifts into something else. Maybe you just stay looking at each other, just beginning this new relationship. There's no right, there's no wrong. And find your way to say thank you and goodbye and see you later to this incarnation of your fear. Which is guiding the way to your next step. Your next step to full, authentic, joyful self-expression. And starting to breathe more fully, becoming aware of the shape of you, the space you fill, or the edges of you, the sky against your skin, the seat beneath you, the earth beneath that. And taking a big breath, having a stretch or a yawn, whatever your body wants to do, and coming back into your room. And you might want to note down anything that your fear had to say, any messages it had for you, or anything that you saw that you want to dream into more, meditate on more, and continue to grow that relationship between you and your fear and your wild voice. How was that for you, Darla?
Awesome. Oh, it was awesome. It was awesome. We don't have time to go into it, but my fear was the square. And maybe I can chat you an update on that.
Great. Yeah, let's do it.
How do we, how would someone, so they get this insight, right? What's one step for them to take their fear and use it? So I heard, first of all, the noticing, like if you're talking from your head and you're talking,
right,
and you're disconnected from your body, and we can notice that in people. I love just bringing that awareness to the body. And then if their fear gave them a message, what should they do with that?
Well, it is specific based on what their fear is. Very quickly, for example, I had an experience once where I had a terrifying nightmare, and there was a cat, and the cat had clawed two people in my dream, to the point where they had no mouths.
Wow.
And I found it really shocking and really, I did not want to look at it. And when I did, I got this really strong message of the power of not speaking. You know, the power sometimes, often actually, in listening.
Yeah.
And so that for me was a huge turnaround. And I've had clients and people become clients who've said something in you shifted, and you stopped trying to like tell me what you could see, and then they could become a client because there was space for them.
So it's really listen to what you hear and act on it. Like
absolutely. And that the message will be specific for you. Don't dismiss it. Whatever you got, there will be something in that for you, however silly or insignificant it seems. So absolutely listen, keep listening, and keep following those little breadcrumb messages, because they do lead to magic and miracles.
I agree. I love it. So Kate, you have your Wild Voice survival kit available for folks. And we will have that on the page, but it is at katewolf.global/Darla LeDoux, which is my name, which you hopefully can see spelled there on the little screen. And that's going to give them some more tools to really start hearing their truth, speaking their truth, and showing up more real in business in their life, right?
Absolutely. Plus some tips for what happens when it all gets a bit scary. You know, maybe sometimes the things we're scared of do happen, like someone called me weird on a Facebook comment, stuff like that. So things to, when that stuff that we're scared of happens, get back into our body, back connected to our purpose, and back out in the world doing our work no matter what.
Amazing. Awesome. So I highly recommend that you grab that from Kate. If you ever have the chance to get in a room with Kate, I highly recommend it. Thank you so much for your sharing authentically and for your brilliance today, Kate. I just love what you're up to in the world. Thank you for who you are. And thank you everyone for listening. Have an amazing rest of your day.
Bye everyone. Thanks, Darla.
Bye everyone. Hey, it's Darla here. Whether you're listening to this episode because you're ready to host your very first transformational retreat, or because you're already hosting retreats and you want to make them infinitely more profitable and life-changing, there's one thing you need to know. You are literally inches away from the game-changing retreat concept that will rock your world. I'm talking about more money, more transformation, and the deeper, more grounded business you dream of. I want to see you get your aligned and profitable retreat idea dialed in and ready to deliver. That's why, after delivering my own retreats for 8 years and working with clients to create their rich retreats, I'm hosting a free interactive workshop where you can refine your retreat idea and receive my personal feedback on your offer, so you can bring your retreat to the world with confidence. The workshop is called Pitch Me Your Retreat. It's happening in just a few weeks and it's going to be incredible. And I know it's going to be incredible because, well, this idea literally jolted me out of bed one morning. What's the best way to make these life-changing retreats happen? Roll up our sleeves and dig right in. If you want my guidance to get clear on your retreat idea, I can spot a winning aligned vision and gaps in strategy super quickly. Here's what to do. Hop on over to pitchmeyourretreat.com. Register to pitch me live and receive laser coaching around your retreat. Or you can register and listen in to the guidance I give others. Oh, and I love games, so there are also prizes to be won. I know Spirit is guiding this workshop as we shift the world one transformational retreat at a time. together. Hop over to pitchmeyourretreat.com now to sign up.